And we are on. Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of Gnosis. Finally, we're doing our first real episode. Last week was just like it was like an intro, so I'm happy to. I'm gonna take my headphones off. I'm happy to finally get this thing going. So the way that we're doing the Q&A is through our Quora account, our Herbal Necessities account on Instagram. We basically do like question answering on Reddit, Quora, all that good stuff. So I figured, let the questions kind of accumulate and then we would answer them on the podcast. These people don't know that we're doing this. I think next time around I'm going to do a thread, let everybody know so I can shout them out. They can tune in, all that good stuff. So, yeah, I think we should kind of just let's just get right into it here. So first question is, why is gut health important to living a happy life? It's almost a direct effect, actually. Your gut is like your second brain. This is a known thing now. I think it's a lot more modern, though. I think we didn't know this prior to the 2000s. Maybe we did, but there's a lot of new stuff on that, on basically how, the mood enhancing like hormones like dopamine and all that, it all starts in the gut. All that effect starts in the gut. So if your gut's not right, chances are you're not going to be feeling right. And I think that might be why depression is so relevant here. I think people are so quick to give up because they don't have that motivation. They're told they have a sickness and they get there's a pill to fix it and boom, it's done for them. But you're not living at the highest level you can. So it all starts in the gut. I would say 100% work on that. Cut out the garbage. Can someone eat a ton of vegetable oil and then balance it with omega-6? I don't think so. The thing, and I was kind of thinking about this because more recently a new study came out about how fish oil is bad. Once you start hitting a certain number, I think as little as 4,000 milligrams and up, I think there was a risk of atrial fibrillation, which is, for those of you that don't know what atrial fibrillation is, it's AFib, right? It's what it's called. You probably see it on your Apple Watch. Basically, it's just irregular and rapid heartbeats that the problem is that they lead to like blood clots and heart failures and strokes. So it is a serious matter. And so I think the issue might be that people, might be trying to get higher amounts of omega-3 because of the omega-6 they're taking in. So I think the answer to that issue is lower the omega-6 instead of trying to up the omega-3 by starting to take these supplements that we know now have another side effect. We already knew there are a lot of them are rancid, and I think especially the ones in the capsules are rancid. Sometimes they sell fish oil that it's like refrigerated. That's probably better, but there still is a problem with a lot of fish oil being rancid. Here's another one. What does rancid fish oil smell like? I don't think you can tell. I'm not sure. Again, I think the refrigerated ones are the ones to go with if you really, really do want fish oil. This is not medical advice, but I personally wouldn't take it. How much care is taken by large food manufacturers that produce both meat-based and vegetarian-based dishes to prevent cross-contamination? I guarantee you they don't care. They're here to make money. They're here to sell lies, a lot of the companies. That's just the unfortunate reality. So I'm sure there's a lot of cross-contamination, but, of course they sterilize things and clean it. So the cross-contamination is probably very minimal. Why does Dean Ornish oppose eating seafood on his heart diet? I don't know what his heart diet's for, and I don't know who he is, but maybe it has something to do with the environmental pollutants. Maybe the study on the atrial fibrillation kind of scared him. I don't know, but I would assume it has something to do with forever chemicals in seafood, the plastics and all that. So that's probably what he's really looking for, as far as I'm concerned. Is lab-grown meat going to be cheap, or will it be more expensive, and will it be produced in mass quantities? I think you'd have to ask Bill Gates that. I don't know what his plan is, but I think it'll be pretty expensive. I think it'll be like the vegan meats where, everyone thinks they're doing a better part for the environment and for their health. And so the companies, and the big one is the environment, right? It's the same thing we see it, the climate change. They're coming in these like private airplanes individually, tons and tons of planes. And then they're over here telling you how you should not be allowed to drive gas cars. So, it's really about them shifting the blame to you and not on them for being horrific people and just completely destroying the world, regardless on the whole climate change debate, because there is a debate to be had there. The fact is there's a lot of crap going on, a lot of environmental pollutants that are destroying the planet, and there's no doubt about that. Basically, yeah, I think you're going to see them it's like, again, the Beyond Burger was more expensive than regular meat, even though everyone's saying vegan dishes are cheaper than ones with meat in them. But the vegan meats, again, they're like, for a while they were a lot more expensive. I mean, we're talking $10 for like a couple patties, whereas you could get like double, triple the amount of patties of regular meat. So, now it's a little cheaper because people are kind of leaving that whole movement, but it's going to be, the marketing is going to be on point. I see Just Egg now has, what's his name? The one actor from the movie Nightcrawler, from the movie, I think his name's Jake Gyllenhaal, something like that. He's the new actor for that commercial. So, they're really trying to get people to not realize that how bad their stuff is. But yeah. What's your favorite magnesium glycinate supplement? I take like a chelated or chelated magnesium, and but I will say that the glycinate is made by this brand Solray that I use, so you can get it from them. I like their brand. They don't have as much crap in the capsules and all that. It's a lot more pure. There's better ones, I'm sure, but they're more expensive. Trace Minerals brand, they have something called Concentrace, a certain technology where they evaporate water from Salt Lake in Utah and get all the minerals in there. So, that's a cool one to check out as well. Okay. Why do food-based dietary guidelines need to evolve? They need to evolve because they're outdated. Even the My Plate thing, I think, is not that accurate. It seems to be wrong. It's still, I mean, at the end of the day, I don't think they can ever be correct so long as the government takes a lot of money from Tyson Foods. I mean, it's the same thing with like the American Association for Heart Disease or whatever. Forget what they're called. But, I mean, look at who's sponsoring them. Tyson, Foster Farms, all these companies. So, they're going to tell you to eat brats. They're going to tell you to eat this and that. And it's just, it's not genuine. You know what I mean? I'm calling BS on that one. And sometimes you do have to call BS. And it's okay to call BS. Just follow the money. It's not a conspiracy theory. It's not, it's not really wrong to follow the money. Chances are when you follow the money, there's something to be said there. What current food trends will fade away in 2023 because people are sick of it, and why do you think it will fade away? I think veganism's the next to go, for sure. As far as like a whole movement and everything, veganism is just completely on a decline. Like I said, the vegan meats are now really cheap, whereas they were more expensive than meat. Now it's like buy one, get one free. They're on sale at Costco. I mean, it's going downhill for them. People are waking up to the BS, to the lies of these companies trying to tell you that you need to be the one to do the right thing. And, at the end of the day, what you really realize is that the meat is not bad for you, and you're compromising your health by, supporting this and eating this type of a food. So I think people are finally waking up to that, realizing what it is. Sometimes we get emotionally attached to our beliefs, and it makes us not really think logically. We think emotionally, and I think that's what was happening with the vegan movement. And I think people, again, like I said, I think it's finally coming out now. People are like done. They're getting sick. So yeah. What bacteria is most associated with red meat? I think a lot of people think of E. coli from red meat, probably even salmonella. So yeah, the food poisoning and all that stuff. Which vegetarian has more protein than meat? I think he's saying which vegetable has more protein than meat. I'd have to say there isn't a vegetable. There are legumes that have a good amount of protein, but the thing is, it's not as bioavailable. And again, a protein is not like to say something has protein doesn't mean the same for every food. The amino acid profile matters. If there's no branched chain amino acids, they're not going to help you build muscle. If there's no collagen proteins, then chances are your body's going to have to make them. And, it's a lot more complicated than just this has protein, that doesn't. 10 grams of protein, yeah, that's great, but what's in the protein, You can't bulk up with collagen powder every single day, Why does oily fish help the brain? I'm not sure exactly, but I do know that there are some treatments where people use like omega-3 fish oil stuff type of a thing to help like attention span. So I think it has something to do with maybe the neurons in your brain, maybe something with them firing, something like that. I mean, at the very least, eating fats are good for you in general, as long as it's all balanced together, including saturated fats. And it's good for your gut, I think. And I think that's why also it helps your brain. I think it might have something to do with the gut. but I could be wrong. I don't have a direct answer to that, so sorry. How do you avoid rancid fish oil? Again, I don't think you can. Maybe you can minimize it just off of my own common sense here. That I think would be more. It would be more reasonable to get fish oil that's like in the the refrigerated section of the vitamin shop than the ones that are in capsules, just because it just makes more sense to me. I don't know if that's common sense or if that's just me assuming something, but yeah, I would go with that if you really want to go with fish oil. Here's another one. How do you know if omega-3 is rancid? Again, I don't think you really can tell, but yeah, go for the refrigerated ones if you really want one. Why do so many people feel a need to defend McDonald's when someone thinks it is unhealthy? I don't know anyone that's defending McDonald's as being healthy. I do know people who get kind of mad when you're, criticized too much. They might say, oh, it's not that bad, or they'll say, well, I went for the lower calorie food. And I think that's where people get it messed up. They think lower calorie means healthy, and it doesn't, because you can have like a low fat candy bar. Doesn't make it like healthy all of a sudden now. So, it's one of those things where people are just misinformed. I think the general public is misinformed on how nutrition works. And I mean, you can't really blame them, right? Doctors here don't even learn nutrition. So you're basically being told uneducated opinions, right? That's the reality. Unless the doctor specializes in nutrition, most of the time your physician is not going to have the best answer on diet. Most of the time, I would say, because they don't take it. So they don't really know. They don't know what's being tested. They don't know what seems to work, what doesn't, because they never learn this stuff. They might not even understand macros and all that. They might not understand, the importance of sodium, potassium as well as you might think they do. They might not. Some, sure, yeah, they do, but it's not some blanket statement that, oh, doctors know nutrition, because it's just they don't. And so I think people go to McDonald's, they think that eating the salad's an okay thing. But the thing with McDonald's is it's the ingredients in there. It's not only the ingredients, but it's also the packaging, like the forever chemicals that are in the packaging, the phthalates in the the phthalates, they're in the meat, I believe. So, it's issues like that, issues that don't even have to do with the way that the food is made. It's more so the packaging and processing of the food. So these are things to take into consideration with something like McDonald's, especially. Okay, what foods should you avoid? Okay, what food should you avoid to live longer? I think this is an easy one here. Look at whole foods, eat those. Anything that's not a whole food, even something like ketchup, start to read the ingredients. That's really what it comes down to. Read the ingredients, know what you need to look out for. The easiest ones are avoid seed oils. If you don't know what that means or it's too much, I think the best way to go about this is think olive oil, coconut oil, and avocado oil. Those are the 3 oils that you should only want on there. That's it. I think if it's any other oil than that, stay away. Just stay away. That's probably the easiest way to go about it. Those 3 oils are the only oils that should be in your food. So if your mayo has soy oil, you don't need to really think, oh, is soy a seed oil? Just think it's not olive oil, it's not coconut oil, and it's not avocado oil. So that, I would say, avoid non-organic grains. I think that's a good way to get a lot of glyphosate and pesticide in your diet, I guess, and in your bloodstream. So that's something you definitely want to avoid. Sleeping well is also important. I know you said foods, but avoiding any of the added sugar, the processed salts. So anything that says salt, you want to look for something that says like Redmond's real salt, Celtic sea salt, ancient sea salt, Himalayan pink salt. Those are the salts you want. You don't want anything that just says salt. You don't want anything that just says sugar, because generally speaking, when it just says sugar, it also means it's probably bleached. So these are the issues there. High fructose corn syrup, food colorings, all that stuff. A lot of preservatives that you don't really understand how they sound, how do I enunciate this? If you can't enunciate it, if you can't even say the word, maybe don't eat it, That's how I kind of look at it. I know that's kind of a stupid rule, but to some extent it does hold some weight, and it's based in reality to some extent. So I would say that's something to look into. Those are some things to consider. What is the best source of iron supplements? You don't want iron overload, so I always say, I'm not a doctor here. No medical advice is being given, but personally, I wouldn't take iron supplements because of iron overload. I would look to red meat first. If that's not working, that's kind of scary, but look to maybe beef heart. And if that's still not working, then you might need to get evaluated for something. Maybe there's an issue, maybe something very fatal is happening. I don't know, but yeah, I guess. And then if you want like a plant-based one, you can go for burdock root. That's the one that I would say I would use. There's a few others, but I personally have experience with burdock root as a tea. So I can, say, hey, I trust a burdock root. Does canned tuna have microplastics? Unfortunately, all wild caught fish does. I don't know if farm raised though. Farm raised might not. I don't know. But it probably has way worse things. I mean, we know it has way worse things. But wild caught fish of all types is generally going to have forever chemicals and microplastics. Although I feel like salmon might be a little cleaner. Maybe like Alaskan salmon, maybe. It's a tough one though. Who knows, right? I can't just say that because it's probably wrong, but maybe it's slightly better. I don't know. A large 2020 study published in the International Journal of Epidemiology concluded that a high consumption of red meat and processed meat was strongly associated with an increased risk of colorectal cancer. Do you agree? So yeah, this is interesting here. I don't really agree. I think there's a lot of interesting stuff with this type of a conversation here. And I think this is why the vegan diet's going to die out. Yeah, there's going to be a little flare here with the climate change stuff with the red meat causes cancer. But I think people are realizing that on a vegan diet, it just doesn't make sense that it can be healthier when you have to supplement everything. That's kind of how I look at it. So I don't know how true this is. I think with processed meat, we can understand that there's a lot of issue with certain preservatives, maybe even the nitrates. There's probably issue with maybe even quality of meat. I think something with the antibiotics probably affects you. I think the suffering of the animal might even affect you. I know that's kind of like a spiritual thing, but I think there is something to be said with the like the suffering. There's actual hormones in there. I don't want to say it's like a specific hormone or not because I don't know the numbers on that, but there are specific hormones that are in there, and I cannot remember at what levels, but they are higher. And I think that's the point of like halal and kosher meat, to reduce the suffering. So yeah, I guess with this one, it's a tough one. A lot of people are like, if you look at the comments of this type of conversation, people are, they're a little bit arguing here because one good point to bring in is, one, it's ancestrally correct to say a lot of groups of people did eat, saturated fats. And I think that's the big argument here. Is there's an argument for saturated fats being a main reason why red meat's so bad versus like chicken. But that doesn't really always hold up when you look at certain populations. Of course, certain studies suggest, but I would say with this type of stuff, you have to be very careful because there's a lot of money in saying that, right now there's a lot of money at least in kind of going the opposite way from whole foods. And it's just one of those things where it's like, like this guy saying right here, basically ancestral foods cannot be blamed for modern diseases. People have been curing meats with nitrates, smoke, and salt probably before we learned how to grow grains. And I totally agree. I mean, we have been cooking meat for a while too, while also eating it raw. And I think that's why our stomach acid's, pretty high. Our pH is really low. It's acidic. Probably because, we were eating some scraps. That's the idea. I don't know how accurate that is, but that is the idea. And so at the very least, yeah, we were cooking and eating raw meat. But even when you're cooking it, like, if that's what's making the red meat so bad, I don't know how evolutionarily consistent that is, considering there's lots of groups of people that did eat meat and cooked it. And so it's one of those things where, I don't know. I don't know the answer, and I don't think anyone can say that this is a good study just because there's a lot of things that counter it. And that's what these nutrition studies, they're a little hard to do because you either get lab studies on and that's just what makes studies hard in general. You know what I mean? But with the food, it's hard because when you get like mice, how can you say it's the same thing in an animal like a mouse? And I don't think you can. And, I don't know though. It's a tricky one with the GMOs. I am one that believes okay, the mice got real sick with GMOs. So yeah, I wouldn't eat GMOs. But in some ways I kind of look at that as different because I just don't trust the idea of putting random genes in a different plant. Whereas this is eating a whole food. So, I don't know. You look at like Hong Kong, and someone's actually bringing this up. Hong Kong has like the highest, life expectancy, and they eat the most red meat. So, I mean, it is an interesting thing. And I mean, Hong Kong is a busy city too. So it's not like it's a stress-free zone either. So it is very interesting there. Like, look right here. Someone says it is regrettable that you have not provided the actual odds ratio so I can see if the association is truly strong in statistical terms. And it's basically saying only one of a number of such epidemiology studies show that association. It should be noted that this association between red meat and colorectal cancer is only observed in countries where most of the red meat consumed is beef. In countries where the red meat is from goats or sheep, the association disappears. Wow. That's interesting right here. Good thing I read this. That's an interesting thing out there. I guess someone's saying genetic material from some bovine viruses, including bovine herpes viruses and bovine papillomaviruses, have been found in human tumors. Huh. Interesting. We should have a whole podcast about this. This stuff is so crazy to me because as a former vegan, I can understand the concerns here. Some of those documentaries scare the poop out of you. I mean, they just really scare you. Yeah, this is an interesting one. I don't know what to say about it because I say most of the red meat attack is coming from the saturated fat, but then this one is saying it's something with the colon. And look, processed meat I don't think is something you should be really looking forward to. Look out for these preservatives because they definitely hurt you. I think, I don't know. It's a tough one. I do say, I know a guy who actually only eats lamb, halal, grass-fed lamb. So, yeah, the other thing too is I think grass-fed beef might make it something. Look, because the cow is obviously a domesticated animal, it's somewhat of a hybrid. It is meant to eat grass, like evolutionarily speaking, and you can get grass-fed cow. You can't really get like an insect-eating chicken. So that's the other argument there. So, I don't know. Maybe it has something to do with the beef wasn't grass-fed. I always say go for grass-fed if you can, but if you're really on a budget, it's probably better to go for factory farmed meat than it is to go for, more processed foods and just rely on supplements. And that's really the argument there. Someone's saying here, I just ate a bit of raw bacon. A lot of bacon is cooked, man. So I would just check what you mean by raw. But if you're scared of anything happening to you, just take charcoal. I always take activated charcoal pills if I ever think I might get food poisoning from a meal I just ate. I pop those activated charcoal pills in and I'm ready to go. So yeah, that's actually something everyone should have, by the way, because I think you can even sprinkle them on cuts. Obviously not medical advice here. That is like really old stuff that they did back in like a long time ago when they were still throwing dirt in cuts. So, yeah, I don't know, but all right. Which has the higher nutritional value, apples or pears? Honestly, I couldn't answer that for you. I feel like they're probably very similar, probably really both high in potassium. So yeah, but look, eat both. Screw it, eat both. What are the advantages and disadvantages of peanut to human health? There's an issue where peanuts may affect testosterone, according to some things that I have read. I don't know how accurate that is. Obviously, some people have intolerances in the stomach to peanuts. There's certain bacteria that likes to grow in peanuts that affect our liver. So that's why you want to go for Valencia peanuts and organic Valencia peanuts. And then, of course, there's the issue with nuts in general just being sprayed highly with tons of pesticides. So organic is the way to go. But those are probably some of the disadvantages. Some of the advantages are that it is a high-calorie food because of the fat, but I don't know if you want all that omega-6 either. So it's kind of one of those things. It tastes good. That is a benefit there. It is a whole food, so it's not like you're eating, something synthetic. So there's that. Assuming you're getting real peanut butter, just peanuts and sea salt. And then another thing is, it does have protein. So, it's plant-based protein. While it's not completely bioavailable, it's better than nothing. And it's, again, protein. Whoa, here's another one. Wow, we got peanut butter fanatics here. Why do Americans love peanut butter so much? I've never seen an American not like peanut butter. Honestly, I think our culture of quick and easy foods, I think peanut butter is just one of those things. It's probably why we like ketchup so much, It can be an additive to food. I think with peanut butter, it is its own food. You can get a spoonful of peanut butter. It's quick. You don't feel too guilty about it. You're told your whole life that peanut butter is good for you. So you go out and buy the crappiest brand ever and you don't even realize how bad that is for you. So, it's just one of those things, part of our culture of things being quick and easy, the sandwiches that you can make with it, all that stuff. Okay, would you rather be a vegetarian or pescatarian for achieving overall health excellence? Look, let's say the pescatarian is allowed to have like eggs and dairy. If that's the case, I would say the pescatarian, because now you're able to eat fish as well. So that's less restrictive. Now, the vegetarian is allowed to eat eggs and dairy. Go for the vegetarian diet if the pescatarian diet's excluding those two. Whichever one includes more, I think, is the way to go. What are the risks of eating citrus in the sun? I think it's more like the essential oil of citrus that has an issue of the sun. I don't think eating it. I think actually eating it might help you because of the antioxidant properties in citrus. What is the purpose of eating protein? Well, all protein really is it is a it has amino acids, so these are building blocks, right? So these are things to take into consideration here. Protein is a big thing here, right? Our collagen, our skin, all that's made out of protein. So there's a lot of different types of amino acids in protein. Protein is not just protein. So remember that. And that's why it's important to know like the amino acid profile of the food that you're eating, regardless of how high the protein content is. How should the daily and weekly diet be balanced between portions and frequencies of certain foods? I think you should really minimize, like super high, like focus on not having processed foods of any type, processed sugars, processed seed oils. That should be a no-no. But everything else, set your macros, set your protein level, should be no less than 0.8 grams of protein per kilogram of body weight. And that should be your goal. From there, go a little higher than that, and then build around it with the fat and the carbs at an even ratio or so, depending on what you're trying to do. So yeah, it's really focus on the daily, I would say, rather than the weekly, because when you focus on the daily, if you're short one day, you can make up for it the next day, and you might be not exact on your week, but you know how you went each day. So I always go by daily. I think weekly might get a little messy in the head, but again, if that's what works for you, do that, and then just try to be consistent. Are canned green peas good for you? I think canned foods are fine. They're a cheap alternative, and as long as they're not made with any crap additives in them, should be fine, and especially like canned beans are actually a lot easier to digest, especially if you pour the water out, than, raw beans that you prepared and soaked them for the shortest amount of time and all that. So that's something to take into consideration, Oh, does honey, ginger, garlic, tomato, and lemon help to last in the bed? It's interesting. I would say probably ginger and garlic would, because they stimulate, and anything that stimulates might help like erectile dysfunction because of blood flow and all that. But I don't know about tomato and lemon and honey. I think honey is just good for your gut, so it probably does help to some extent. What happens to... Okay, that's fine. Does canning destroy nutrients? No, I don't think canning destroys nutrients. I think when you look at canning, you're probably going to cook a lot of these foods. So you're going to destroy the nutrients from cooking more so than canning. I don't think canning is, canning's a preservation method. I don't think you have to worry too much about, am I going to get rid of the protein, this or that? Just, you know what I mean? Don't freak out too much about that stuff. Is milk protein different than meat protein? Not really. I mean, they're very similar because they have like the branch chain amino acids. They have, the isoleucine, all that good stuff. I'm sure like milk has like L-tryptophan in it, which is very popular. I don't know how much red meat has it in there. I think turkey has it in there. So there's some different things that they both have depending on the meat too. But generally speaking, they're both popular because they have those muscle building proteins. So yeah, slightly different, I would say, but people are going to them for the same reasons. Kobe beef is Kobe beef better than regular beef? I'm not sure. I think Kobe beef is like the Wagyu fancy beef. So I don't think it's really that it's better for you. It might be raised in a better condition. They might be feeding it more grass maybe, but I don't know that for sure. I think it's more of a luxury thing. I would say, go for grass-fed bison if you're trying to spend that type of money. It's just, we know grass-fed bison is very nutritious. Which milk has the most protein per glass? Probably like skim milk, I would say, but I could be wrong. I always go for whole milk though, because even though most of the calories are gonna be between the fat and the protein, there's probably more protein in skim milk. I like getting the whole amount of the nutrients in there. I think that's the benefit of the milk. Are candy bars a meal supplement? No, a Snickers is not the same as a tuna sandwich. They might be similar in calories, but calorie is not a calorie. You can drink, a serving of soda at McDonald's. That right there is like 300 to 400 calories. That's not the same as eating, salmon and rice and broccoli, and that being like what, probably 500 calories, a little bit more. But hey, your nutrients are way higher. Those 400 calories in the soda came all from high fructose corn syrup. So that's how you have to look at that. Okay, let's see what's here. What is the food that makes a man grow very strongly? If you're talking about testosterone, meat's a good one. Like the proteins in there tend to help build muscle, and things. I would say things for specifically testosterone. Just no synthetic things. Meat's a whole food. Some plants like I would say like fruits especially have certain little like a recovery amino acids that might help you build protein, and I think they help with testosterone. Watermelon's a good example of that. L-citrulline, I think is what it's called. Might be saying that wrong, but if you look that up, it's a good recovery amino acid that's in watermelon, and it's just one of those things that it's an additive to the whole thing, and it matters. But I think what matters most is you cutting out the synthetic stuff, because that's what's really dropping your levels of testosterone. That's what's really preventing you from making all the muscle. Something like meat can offset that. Something like fruit can offset that. But to only a certain extent. If you're not getting good sleep, if you're not getting sun, all those things. The working out's another one. Yeah, I mean, even there's like the talks of semen retention, all that type of stuff, but I don't know how accurate some of that stuff is. Same thing with cold showers. Cold baths, on the other hand, are a lot more studied on, and they do have a good, they relax your body. They do. So to some extent, while your stress hormones are going down, I guess you can be in a better zone mentally when you're out of that of that bath, of that shower, to the point where your body can function at its proper, levels. So these are just some things there, and obviously eating enough balance, enough, of everything. I've been really stressed out lately about the possibility of food shortages later this year and into 2023. How bad is it going to get? I think it's going to get pretty bad. I think, the pandemic, obviously shutting things down was going to be a disaster, and it affected the third world really bad, and it still is right now. But now it's starting to come full circle. And, China still has their lockdowns. They export a lot. So there's a lot of issues going on right now. And, I think it's only going to get worse. Then, the fertilizer prices going up due to the Russia thing in Ukraine. That's another issue. So that, along with food centers being burnt down, food centers being cyber attacked, just all types of weird stuff going on. I would say it's going to be pretty bad, along with inflation. Now, that's the other thing, the economic recession. Nobody's working. It's a whole big old, I don't even know what it's just a mess. Everything's just screwing everything over, and it's a big old soup of BS is really what it is. There's a lot of bad stuff going on, so yeah. But, again, that's no reason to like sit there and just not live your normal life. Go live your life. Just be prepared, be smart, have a plan, make sure that you can get the nutrients you need, have some backups. It's not crazy. It's smart. Grow some things, grow some fruits in your backyard, grow some broccoli in your backyard, whatever. Have some fun, It's all about fun. If you're not making any of this fun with living a better lifestyle, you're going to hate yourself. And while you might start looking better, you're going to feel like crap, and you're going to end up going back to your old ways. And that's just no way to live, Some people are happier obese than they are working out because they put so much stress on themselves. And it's just really unfortunate, because obesity is the silent killer. It's a huge silent killer. And, it's starting to become a thing that you can't even talk about. But it's just, obesity is not a good thing. It shouldn't be celebrated in the same way smoking cigarettes shouldn't be celebrated. And I wish people knew how fun and, I guess in some ways, easy it can be. It takes hard work. Nothing good comes easy. but it doesn't have to be hard and non-enjoyable. Are naturally occurring trans fats like the ones in beef still bad for you? Generally speaking, no. I mean, I'm sure there's some papers out there saying it is, but the thing is, I always look at it like, and this is more of an opinion, it's just, if you look at why trans fats are bad in the first place, you look at like a Twinkie or something, it's from the high heat and the frying of just all these vegetable oils and things of that nature, and it's just all this other stuff that's all processing, whereas the meat itself naturally has that in it. Very different, I think. 2 people have requested your answers 2 questions this week. Okay. So, what fructose foods should I avoid? Now, if this is because you have a fructose disorder where you can't really do anything with it and your body just gets sick from it, then you probably can't have anything with it. So go for like cucumbers for fruits and stuff like that, avocados. If you're talking about like high fructose corn syrup, just stay away from high fructose corn syrup. You can eat fruit, it's fine. You can eat honey, it's fine. High fructose corn syrup and corn syrup are the 2 bad things. Really any syrup but agave, honey, and maple syrup are probably ones you want to stay away from. Okay, what food trends will emerge and fade away in 2023? We already talked about this. The veganism's probably one to kind of start to go away to some extent. I mean, it already has. As you see, the vegan meats are going on sale, but I do still see a lot of people buying them. So I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong about it, but okay, next one. Does eating cheese increase bone density? Generally speaking, the idea is just that dairy has a lot more bioavailable calcium. So the calcium there is going to be used way more, at a way better way than like in kale. And so, yeah, I guess that, and then of course, I mean, ideally there should be some vitamin D in dairy, but I think they like fortify it. But vitamin D helps with calcium, which helps with the bone density and all that. So it's really more things in one, but I guess, yeah, sure. Cheese is just going to help you get your calcium, which is important for your bone health. In the 21st century, did we reach peak of food flavors to the point where we've ran out of new ones? I don't really think so. I don't think we're recycling old ones, because if you look at like Jones Soda, they're always making these weird flavors like dirt and grass and all these weird flavors. So I'm sure before you know it, you'll get styrofoam flavored stuff. Who knows, right? I don't think we're nearing an end of that, but maybe they are, and we're just being told that it's a different flavor, so we think it's a different flavor. I don't know. It's kind of weird. Why are sheep and goat cheese quite common in the Western world, but not sheep or goat milk? I think it's because now that you make cheese, it has to kind of sit around and ferment, quote unquote, age. I think it's easier to do that, to export it, than it is the actual milk, because you have to pasteurize it, or if it's raw, you have to like freeze it and whatnot. So I think that's the bigger issue. It's also not as much of a common thing in our culture here in America, whereas something like feta is kind of still popular. Why are vapes being banned by the FDA? I think Marlboro, whatever that cigarette company is called, they bought out Juul, and I guess the idea was, like, the little theory is that they bought out Juul to get it banned, and that's that. Right now, Juul's the one that's banned. So, yeah, I think big tobacco. I don't trust them. I'm not saying vapes are good either; they're horrific for you, but who knows what's worse, right? Can those who aren't lactose intolerant like me just have huge amounts of cheese throughout the day without getting sick? Yeah, I mean, look, too much cheese might irritate your stomach. I know I've had my moments where I've eaten too much cheese and I didn't feel too good. It's probably just because it's a lot of fat, and so eating it all at once is not ideal. It's kind of like if you were to swallow a tablespoon of coconut oil, it's just not going to sit well. But with that being said, lactose intolerant folks, they can handle cheese. I mean, like cheddar cheese has 0 lactose, Jack cheese, no lactose, even Parmesan. They'll be fine too. I think when you overdo anything, you can kind of run into that issue of feeling a little sick. Even just eating too much in general is a problem for some people. What are the main benefits of cucumbers? This is a good one. I love cucumbers. I don't actually like to eat them. I should probably try, because we have a whole bunch in the garden, but I do put them in my water a lot. And the reason is, I mean, they're super high in water, so they have like a lot of electrolytes in them. and I just like to add it to kind of fortify my water with extra nutrients. So yeah, but if you're eating cucumbers, it's a great way to stay hydrated on a hot day, because you're not just drinking water, you're eating it, so you're getting all the other stuff in there, and it's just, because water can wash you out and it's not really hydrating in and of itself, but something like a cucumber is pretty hydrating. So those are things to just remember. Okay, let's move on here. We're almost done. Is it true that raw milk can cause infertility in humans? Sir, I have never heard of that. Please, if there is an article saying that, let me know. Let me read. I need to read this, so send it to me. But it doesn't make sense to me that something with so much probiotics in them, like raw milk, super high in probiotics, right? How can that affect your how can that cause infertility when probiotics help fertility? They help reproductive issues in the reproductive system. So it doesn't really make sense to me something helping the reproductive system, especially in the case of fertility, would also cause infertility. However, I could be wrong, so let me know. But I think one thing you can think of is, I think some people might look at like, okay, well, what if you have a certain illness from eating or consuming a certain dairy product or raw milk? Maybe the sickness can make you infertile, but that's probably super rare. But other than that, I can't see how directly raw milk would make you sick to the point where you're infertile. That's a little wild. What dietary changes and supplements can assist in preventing cognitive decline in aging adults? There's a couple things. Dietary changes, I would say lifestyle changes. Go out, get sun, talk to people, socialize, change your environment out. That's important. So is eating right, eliminating the processed foods that we always talk about here. And then I think the big thing is also do exercises and really make sure you eat a good breakfast. I feel like a lot of elderly people start to forget to eat a good breakfast. I could be wrong, but I just think that that's a lot of people's problem. And I think as you get older, you probably get less motivated to do it, since, even sometimes I have trouble eating breakfast. I know a lot of people that don't eat breakfast. There's no motivation to eat. So I'd imagine it would get worse as you get older, but I could be wrong. However, breakfast is the big one. Make sure you're eating your breakfast. And, along with that, you definitely want to look into supplements like beef liver, natural supplements like food as your supplements, along with maybe you could try mushrooms. I'm not advocating for the illegal ones. I'm saying like lion's mane, shiitake. These mushrooms, they are really good at boosting the mood. And there's actually a whole like brain boost type of mushroom blend. It's like got an orange lid. You can find it on Amazon, and that tends to help people with like cognitive issues. So yeah, I would say that. Even ice cream might work too, like a good whole ice cream, a good brand. I did a whole post on this. Herbal Necessity 00 Instagram. We have a post on ice cream. You can see which ice creams to go for. Okay, what actually makes fruits and veggies healthy other than their vitamins and minerals? This is a good one. I think a lot of people look at an orange and they just think vitamin C, but fruits and veggies are both carbs. I know you can look at a potato, you think starch, you think carbs, but you look at a fruit, you should also think carbs. So yeah, those are just some things to consider. When eating. A watermelon is a carb, so it's part of your macronutrients. So add it to your calorie counter, and it's a good source of energy. I think we're pretty much wrapping it up here. What happens when you eat magnesium? So there really are two main effects that you get from magnesium. One is like a laxative effect, and then the other one is, obviously it helps your body on a cellular level. It's a good electrolyte, but it also helps you relax. So, I take like this chelated magnesium, and I use it to help me sleep. Some people will use like magnesium oxide, I believe, for, stomach issues as a way to naturally have a laxative. And so, you just want to get the right one. Definitely glycinate, however you want to pronounce it. That right there is a very popular type because of the bioavailability. Supposedly, it's just better absorbed, I guess, is the idea. So I always go with the brand Solaray, or Trace Minerals brand, and their Concentrace patented technology. So those are the two things that I would say to look into, those two brands. Other than that, someone said right here, what are food items that are nutritious but unknown to the general public? This will be the last one. I always say camu camu in animal organs. People forget the benefit of animal organs. As a vegan, looking at what gives you copper, what gives you zinc, I always came across liver. And once I finally went back to meat, I said, I got to do liver. So liver and heart and all that stuff. But camu camu is my favorite supplement. It's just a fruit. It's got tons of vitamin C in the tablespoon of that dried fruit. It's amazing. I love it, and everyone should go get it right now on Amazon. I think I'm going to have to link it in my bio in the link tree that we have set up, which reminds me, go check out our link tree so you can follow our Quora, stay up to date, ask questions on our Reddit as well, which will be in the link tree. Subscribe to this podcast, share it, comment, like, let us know what we can do differently. Thank you guys for tuning in. We're going to end it here now. This has been another episode of Gnosis, the Q&A. It's finally done. So go out and always remember that knowledge is power. Thank you guys for tuning in. Have a great one.